In this video, I'll show you how to use the new Notion formulas to create this accountability partner that will show your daily habit progress, the habits you still need to complete, as well as all the tasks that you still need to complete for the day. It will also show good morning, good day, or good evening, depending on the time of day. The daily habit progress percentage will change color as it increases, and you'll also get a nice message each time you complete all of your daily tasks and habits. Now, if you just want to save time creating this yourself, then feel free to grab this habit tracker dashboard through the first link in the description. In my previous video, I showed you how to build this habit tracker that shows your total good and bad habit progress for each day, week, month, quarter, and year, which I'll leave a link to in the description of this video. And this will also be the habit tracker that we'll be using in this video to build the accountability partner. And we'll also be using the new Notion formulas, which I've already covered in depth in my 3-part Formula 2.0 series, which will also be in the description below. Now with that out of the way, let's start building. Alright, so let's start off by creating a gallery view database, and then this database is going to be called accountability partner. And then let's open up this database and add an icon. I'm just going to add this notification icon, and then what we want to do is just hide this database title, rename this database view. I'm just going to add a space to remove the name, and then I'm going to add this circle icon. Then what you want to do is delete these two database entries, open up this one, delete the content inside, and delete both properties. Then you want to rename this to accountability partner, and you want to add an icon as well as add a formula property which will be called overview formula. Then what you want to do is open up the database menu, go to layout, and under card preview, change the card preview to none, change the card size to small, and then inside of properties, just show the formula on the database view. Then what you want to do is just create a callout box, drag the callout box on top of the database, drag the database inside, rename the callout box to overview, make it bold, underline it, and change the text color, and then also add an icon. And then before I forget, just go into your database menu and under layout, turn on wrap all properties. Now what we're going to do is we're going to relate this database entry with all 4 databases that we'll be using, which is the habit tracker, the good habits database, the bad habits database, as well as the task database. So click inside of this accountability partner and then add 4 relations. The first one will be to the tasks. The second one will be to the days database. The third one will be to the good habits database. And then the fourth one will be to the bad habits database. And then what you want to do is just give an icon to each of these relations. Then once that's done, all you want to do is just click on these relations, click show as, and then select minimal. Alright, so once this overview database is related with all 4 databases, you want to go inside of each of these 4 databases and edit all of their template buttons, and then just select the accountability partner. So now Monday is related. Now I'm just going to go into Tuesday and then relate Tuesday, and then repeat this for all 7 days of the week. And then once that's done, I'm going to do the same for the tasks, edit the task template button and relate it with the accountability partner, and then do the same for the good and bad habits. Alright, so once you've related all the template buttons of all 4 databases to this accountability partner, whenever you create a new database entry, whenever it's a new habit, a new day, or a new task, it will automatically be linked to this accountability partner. Alright, so let's actually now start with the formula. The first thing we're going to do is add in greetings inside of a comment, just to keep everything organized, and then we're going to start off with an ifs function. Now the first part of our greeting section is going to be, if our current hour is before 12 p.m, then show good morning. Otherwise, if our current hour is before 5 p.m, then show good day. Otherwise, if our current hour is before midnight, then show good evening. Now if we click on done, you'll see the formula says good day because it's currently 4 p.m, and in 1 hour it will show good evening. Now the next part is going to be adding our name. So to do this, we're just going to add a text property which will be called your name, and then here we're simply just going to add in our name. Then what we want to do is just go back into our formula, add a plus, and then select our name property, and also just make sure to add a space at the end of good morning, good day, and good evening. And then if you just copy all of this and paste it next to the other 2 as well, then you'll have text that says good morning, good day, or good evening, and then your name. And then what you want to do is just at the end of each section, just add a plus, and then inside of quotation marks, add a comma, and then text that says, here's a quick overview of your day so far, and then a colon and another quotation mark. And then all you want to do is just copy all of this and then paste it to the other two as well. And then if we click on done, you'll now see the full greetings text that says, "Good day, Chris. Here's a quick overview of your day so far." But we're not done yet. What we also want to do is just put everything inside of brackets, and then at the end just add a style function, and then inside of the style function, inside of quotation marks, add in a B to make it bold. And that's the first part of our formula done. Alright, so now that this section is done, what we now want to do is begin with our task section. So we're first going to move all of this down by pressing Shift Enter, and then add in another comment, which will be for our task variables. But before we can start with the task variables, we first need to go inside of our task database, open up the database entry, and then we need to add this formula. So if I open this up, then you'll see it's the exact same formula that we used in the previous video when we created the days database, which basically just compares the date property with our current date. And then if they're the same, then it needs to show a checked checkbox. Otherwise, it needs to show an unchecked checkbox. So you can just go ahead and copy all of this, or you can watch out my previous video or part 3 of my Formulas 2.0 series if you want a more detailed explanation. So once you've created this today property that will show a checked checkbox if it has today's date, then you can go back into your accountability partner, and then inside of the formulas, we can now start with our task variables. So in order to start creating variables, we're going to create the let's function, and then we're going to remove the closing bracket and then just add it at the end of our formula. So the name for our first variable is going to be uncompleted tasks, and then we're going to add a comma, and then we're going to add in the formula. So for our first variable, we're going to use our tasks database, and then we're going to filter this database to where our current done checkbox property is false. And then we're also going to add a comma to set this first variable. Now the next variable is going to be the same thing except for our completed tasks. So again, we're going to use the task database, and we're going to filter it to where the current done checkbox property is true, and then also close it off with a comma. So now we have a variable that we can use if we want our completed tasks or if we want to use our uncompleted tasks. So the next variable we want to add is going to be to get our uncompleted tasks that has today's date. So this variable is going to be called today uncompleted, and then this is going to use our uncompleted tasks, which is this one, filtered to our current today property, which is the formula that shows the checked checkbox if it has today's date, where the today formula is true. And then we're just going to add another comma. Then we're going to do the exact same thing with our completed tasks. So our variable is going to be called today completed, and we're going to use our completed tasks variable, which is all of this, where this is filtered to our current today formula, where it shows true. And then we're just going to add a comma. So now we've created 4 variables. The first one shows all our uncompleted tasks. The second one shows all of our uncompleted tasks with today's date. The third one shows all our completed tasks. And then the fourth one shows all our completed tasks with today's date. Now the fifth and final variable that we're going to set is for our total daily tasks. For this one, we want to count together our total daily uncompleted and completed tasks. So to do this, we're going to use our today completed tasks, and we're going to count it together with our today uncompleted tasks. But since these are not numbers, all we have to do is just add a length function at the end as well as a comma. So now our fifth variable will give us a number value of our total daily tasks. So now that our variables are set, we can Shift Enter and then create our task section. Now before we can get started on the task section, we first need to click Done and then add another formula property, which will be called Today Tasks, which will just show a checkbox if we have tasks for today or not. So inside of this formula, you want to use the task database and filter it to only use tasks which has today's date. And then you want to add a length function to get the number value. And then you want to say if all of this equals 0. So if today has no tasks, then show false, otherwise show true. And then click on Done. And now it should show a checkbox because we do have a task for today. And if we delete this, then it will show an unchecked checkbox. Now that this formula is in place, you can just hide this and then go back into your formula And now we can start with our task section. Now before we actually start with the task section, just go into the greeting section and add a plus, and then inside of quotation marks, a backslash and the letter N, followed by another plus and another backslash with the letter N, which is just to add 2 line breaks underneath the greeting section. So now if I click on done, you'll see that our formula now has 2 extra line breaks. So let's create an ifs function that says if today tasks, which is this formula that we just created, the checkbox. If today tasks is false, aka if we don't have any tasks for today, then show everything that we're about to create, otherwise, and then show the rest. So for this first part, which is when we don't have any tasks, we want text to say, seems like you don't have any tasks for today yet. And then we also want to just style this and make it bold as well as make it purple. And now if I add a task for today, then you'll see that the text will disappear. So now the next section of our task formula is going to be for when we've completed all of our daily tasks. So to add this, all you want to do is just add a comma and press Shift Enter to continue with the ifs function. And then you want to use the today uncompleted variable and add a .length function at the end. So what we're doing here is we're getting the number value of the total uncompleted tasks for today. And we're going to say that if our total uncompleted tasks for today is 0, aka we've completed all of our tasks, then show the following text. So for our text, we're just going to press Shift Enter and then inside of quotation marks, just add text that says, nice job, you completed all your daily tasks. Now go do something fun. And then what you want to do is just add a style function at the end and then make it bold and then also make it blue. Now if I click on done and go down to the task section and complete our daily task, then you'll see our text will now show up on the accountability partner. Now the third part of our task section is going to be for when we do have tasks to complete. So now again you want to add a comma, press Shift Enter to continue with the ifs function, and now it's going to be the remaining part of the ifs function. So at the moment this if function reads, if we don't have any tasks for today, show this text. Otherwise, if our task for today is complete, then show this text. Otherwise, if it's none of these, then show everything that we're about to create. So the first part will be our to-do text, which will be followed by a colon and a space inside of quotation marks, and then a style function to make it bold and turn the color to blue. Now if I click on done and go down to the task section and uncheck this checkbox, it will now show to do. So let's go ahead and add a plus and then Shift Enter, and then on a new line add an open bracket inside of quotation marks, add a plus, and then add our today completed variable. Now for this variable, we're going to add a length function to get the actual number of completed tasks, and then we're going to add a plus, Shift Enter, and then inside of quotation marks add a divide. Then we're going to add a plus and then use our total daily tasks variable, followed by another plus, and then inside of quotation marks add a closing bracket. And then what you want to do is just add all of this inside of brackets, and then at the end just add a style function and make it bold as well as turn the color to blue. So now if we click on done, you'll now see the total number of completed tasks divided by the total number of tasks. So now if I go ahead and add 2 more tasks and then mark one of them as complete, you'll now see that this will show that we've completed 1 out of our 3 daily tasks. So now all that's left is to just add all the task pages underneath each other. So what we're going to do is add another line break. And then what you want to do is just select your today uncompleted variable. So now if I click on done, you'll see that our tasks actually show up on the formula, and we can also rename these, and you'll see that the name will actually change. And you can also click on them to actually open them as a full page. Now all you want to do to make them show up underneath each other is just add a join function at the end of this variable, and then inside of the join function you want to specify how you want to join them. So in this case all we want is to just have them underneath each other, so we're just going to join them with a line break. So if I click on done, you'll now see that they're underneath each other. But what we can also do is we can add a symbol inside of this line break. So for example, I'm going to use this blue dot emoji, and then I'm also going to add it inside of this line break at the beginning. And now our tasks will be joined together with a line break as well as this blue dot emoji. So now let's go ahead and test everything. If we mark all of our tasks as complete, it should show the well done message, and it looks like we did something wrong. So let's just make sure what that is. It looks like we added the closing bracket for the ifs function not at the actual end of the formula. So let's just move that over, and yeah, problem solved. It shows the well done message. If we uncheck them, it will show all of the tasks, and if we delete all of these, it will show text that says, seems like you don't have any tasks for today yet. Alright, so that's the greetings and the task section done for the accountability partner. Alright, so now let's move on to the next section, which is going to be for the habit progress. For this part of the formula, we're first going to need to set up two different formulas, one on the habit tracker and one on the accountability partner. So the first formula is going to be on the days database, and it's going to be exactly the same as the one we did for the task database to calculate whether or not the database entry has today's date. So as you can see, this formula is exactly the same, and if I add today's date, then it will show a checkbox, otherwise it will just show nothing. So once you have this formula that calculates whether or not today is the current day, then you can go into your accountability partner and you can add a new formula which will be called today habits. Inside of this formula, you want to use the days relation and then filter it so that we only use days which has today's date, where the today formula is checked. And then just add an if function in the beginning that says, if the days database has today's date, then show true, otherwise show false. Now if I click on done, you'll see that we have a checkbox because one of these database entries has today's date, and if I remove this date, then it will show an unchecked checkbox. Alright, so now we can hide this property, and then we can go inside of our formula and then create our habit variables. Alright, so let's continue with the let's function and add in our first variable for the habit overview section, which will be to get all the database entries with today's date. So for this variable, we're going to use our days database, and then we're just going to filter this to where our current today checkbox is checked, and then just add a comma. Alright, so now we can get the database entry with today's date, but we also want to be able to use the percentage of that database entry. So what we're going to do is we're going to create another variable, which is going to be called daily habit progress. And then we're going to add a map function and use the today habit variable that we just created, and then use a current function so that we can use the daily habits percentage of this database entry. And now because we're using the map function, we also need to add a format function as well as a toNumber function so that we can use the actual number value. And then what we want to do is just multiply all of this with 100 because we want to get rid of the zeros so that we have an actual number and not just a percentage value. And then what we want to do is just add a round function in the beginning, and then add a closing bracket and multiply everything with 100. Add another closing bracket and divide everything with 100 in order to get rid of the decimals, and then just add a comma. Alright, so now that we've set our two variables, we want to scroll down, and then at the end of the task section, just add two line breaks, so \n, and now we can start with our new habit overview section. Then for the overview section, we're going to do the same thing we did for the tasks. That basically says if the today habits, which is this checkbox on the accountability partner, if the today habits is false, then show text that says looks like you have not added your daily habits yet. Otherwise, and then the rest. Now for this text, we also just want to add a style function and then make this bold as well as make it purple. Now if the today habits is not false, aka we do have habits for today, and the daily habit progress is 100%, then show the following text. Well done. You're clearly disciplined and focused on improving your life. Keep it up. And then we want to add a space and the end of the quotation mark, because now we want to add our name. So just add a plus, add the name property, another plus, and then inside of quotation marks, add an exclamation, and then we want to add brackets around all of this, and then at the end, add a style function to make everything bold, as well as turn the text color to green. So let's go ahead and test what we have so far. And as you can see, it says, looks like you have not added your daily habits yet. And if I open up Monday and add today's date, then the text will disappear. And if I add habits, nothing will happen because we haven't added that section to the formula yet. But if we complete all of our habits, then you'll see we got the well done message. Alright, so now let's add the section that shows the actual progress of our habits. So I'm just going to uncheck these and then open up the formula again. And now let's start with the last if statement. So at the moment it says if we don't have any habits, then show this text. If our habits is completed, then show this text. Otherwise, and then what we're about to create. So before we start with the next if statement, just add a comma after the previous one and then shift enter the closing bracket. And now we can start with our next if statement. So we're going to start off with text that says your daily habit progress for, and then a space, and then the end of the quotation mark. And then we're going to style this and to make it bold. And then what we want to do is add a plus, add a line break, and then we're going to use our today habit variable, which will actually give us the database entry. And then we're going to add another plus, and then inside of quotation marks, add a space, add the word is, add another space, and then quotation marks, make this bold as well. And then we're going to add another plus, and then we're going to use our daily habit progress variable. And then at the end of this, just add another plus, and then inside of quotation marks, a percentage symbol. Now if we click on done, you'll see we have text that says your daily habit progress for Monday is 40%. Now, if I click on Monday, it will actually open up as a full page and I can check off some of the habits. And now the progress is 80%. And if I go back to the accountability partner, you'll see that it actually updates. So the next part of this overview section is for the color of this percentage to actually change if the number increases. So let's open up our formula and then go down. And then here for the daily habit progress section, we're just going to shift enter and then press tab. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add another ifs function, and then we're going to delete this closing bracket, add it at the end, and then we're going to say if the daily habit progress is below 20%, then show the daily habit progress with the format function, because we want to put all of this inside of brackets, and then add a style function and then make it bold, as well as turn the color to red. Now let's add a comma and then highlight all of this and add in the next section, which is if the daily habit progress is not 20 and it is below 40, then show the percentage with the color pink. Otherwise, if it's below 60, show it with the color purple. Otherwise, if it's below 80, then show it with the color blue. Otherwise, if it's below 100, then show it with the color green. Now we can remove this comma and we can actually move one of these closing brackets at the very end of the formula. Now if I click on done, you'll see that our 80% is now green, and if I open up Monday and uncheck some of the checkboxes, you'll see that the color is now actually changing. Now together with this overview text, we also want to add 2 line breaks. So let's just add a plus and then a backslash and the letter N inside of quotation marks, and then just repeat this one more time. And then we want text that says you still need to complete the following habits, and then a colon and another quotation mark, and then we want to style all of this and make it bold. And if I click done, you'll see that the text shows up. And now all that's left is to just add the good habits and the bad habits section with the names of each of the habits that we still need to complete. So before we can get started on the next section, we first need to add a couple of formulas. The first formula is going to be inside of the good habits database. So how this formula works is if the related database, which is this Monday, has the today checkbox checked, which is the formula that determines whether or not it has today's date. If Monday has today's date, then it needs to show checked. Otherwise, it needs to be empty. So if I relate this habit with a different day, then the checkbox won't be checked unless this day has today's date, which will make this today formula have a check checkbox, which is the property that we're using inside of this today formula. And then we're using the exact same formula for the bad habits database as well. So the last 3 formulas that we need to add is going to be inside of this day's database, which will show whether or not we have habits for that day. So this first one will show a check checkbox if we don't have any bad habits, and is basically just an if function saying that if the number of bad habits is 0, then show true, otherwise show false. And then we have the exact same formula for the good habits. So if the number of good habits is 0, then show true, otherwise show false. And then for the third one, it's basically the same thing, just added together. So if the total number of bad habits plus the total number of good habits is 0, then show true, otherwise show false. So once you have those 5 formulas in place, we can now continue with our accountability partner. Alright, so let's create a new section inside of our let's function in order to add our good habit variables. So our first variable is going to be called daily good. For this variable, we're going to use the good habits database, and we're going to filter it to where it's only the habits that has today's date. So it needs to equal true, and then we're going to add a comma, and then we're going to add our next variable. Now our next variable we'll be calling daily good habit, and for this one we're going to use our daily good variable that we just created, and we're going to filter it to where our current day is not empty. Alright, so this next one is going to be called to do daily good, which is going to use this daily good variable, and we're going to filter it to where the current done checkbox property is unchecked. So now this one will give us all of today's habits that we still need to complete. The next variable is going to follow on the previous one. So this one is going to be to do daily good habit, which is going to use this previous variable that we just created. And we're going to filter it to where it is related to a day. And now for the last two, we're going to create a variable called done daily good, which is going to use our daily good variable, filtered to where the current checkbox property is true. And then our last variable is going to be called done daily good habit. And then we're going to do the same as we did with the other ones, where we're just going to take the previous variable and just filter it to where it has a day relation. So basically what we've done is we've got a variable that gives us all of today's habits, all of the habits we still need to complete, all of the habits that we've completed, and then each of those that relate to a specific day. And then what you want to do is just copy all of this and paste it in for the bad habit section, and then just replace good habit with bad habit. So for this first variable, we're just going to highlight good, replace it with bad, delete the good habits relation, and then select our bad habits relation, and then also just reselect our bad habits today property. So it's pretty much the same process for all of them. You just want to replace the word good with the word bad for both variables, and then just delete this day text and replace it with the day property, and then do the same thing for all the done checkbox properties. Now in order to add the good habits section underneath the overview section, we're just going to copy this and add 2 more line breaks. We're going to start off with an ifs function that says if our today habit variable filtered to where the current no good habits checkbox formula is true, then show the following text. So this will be if we don't have any good habits for today. This text will read, there's no good habits to complete for today yet. And then we're going to add a style function to make it bold and to change the color to purple. Now if it's not this and we do have good habits for today, and our done daily good habit is the same as our daily good habit, then show the following text. So this will be for if we've completed all of our good habits for today. So for this text we want it to say, good job, you're slowly becoming the person you know you could be. And then we want to style it and make it bold, as well as change the color to green. And now we want to add a comma and then add our last if statement, which is if we do have good habits for today and they're not completed yet, then show the following. So for this last section where we want to see the good habits, we can literally just copy the task section and then just replace the variables. So all we want to do is just remove one of these brackets, change the text color to green, replace the blue dot emoji with a green dot emoji, and then replace to do with good habits. And as for the variables, we're going to replace this first one with the done daily good habit, the second one with daily good habit, and then the third one with to do daily good habit. Alright, so now what we want to do is just copy 2 line breaks, paste it in, and then let's create our bad habit section. And then what we're going to do is just copy this whole good habit section and then just replace everything for our bad habits. So inside of this first line, we're going to delete the no good habits text and replace it with the no bad habits checkbox formula. Then the text we're going to replace with there's no bad habits for you to overcome today yet. For the second if statement, we're just going to replace both good variables with our bad variables. And then we're going to replace this text with text that says, nice job. Looks like you're stronger than your bad habits. And then for our final if statement, we're just going to replace good habits with bad habits. We're going to turn all the text red. We're going to replace the green dot emojis with the red dot emojis. And then for all the variables, we just want to replace them with the bad variables. Now, before we click on done, there's just one more thing. Next to daily bad habit, you just want to add a length function. And then you want to do the same for the daily good habit variable. And now we can click on done. And as you'll see, our good habits and our bad habits are now showing on our accountability partner. And if we open up Monday and check off some of our habits, you'll see that they'll disappear. And if we mark all of our good habits as complete, we'll get this message. If we do the same for the bad habits, we'll get this one. And if we complete all of our habits, everything will disappear and then we'll get this well done message. If you've gotten any value from this video, I would really appreciate a like, as a lot of time and energy went into creating this. And also be sure to check out the Habit Tracker Hub in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.